Welcome back to Saturday Craft, and welcome back to the next part of making the dog caddy, as you probably saw on the title card. I decided not to do what I said I was going to do last week because I thought you might want to actually see how you do it. So I did make the liner, which is what I showed you how I figure out how to make a liner. So that's been sewn, and I've checked that it does fit with enough turnover that we'll be able to sew it to it. But we're not going to use this until right at the end, so that we can use the holes that are in here to sew to, and then the liner will cover that up. But the other thing that I said that I was going to do is I was going to put the curve on the end, and I thought, well, maybe not, because I've got to put all the little pockets that are along the side. If I can get the dog picture up, we'll get it on the screen. If you look on the screen now, there's all those pockets. I might be able to use those pockets to round it out without having to add another piece. So that should be helpful. And before I go any further, I had a request on a picture of the strawberry panda that we made last. No, not last. Last was the donkey. This is the one before. So this is the strawberry panda, Kristen. He's about the size of a softball. That was, if you look in the previous Saturday Crafts, that was our last one that we did. Okay, so getting back to this. So I did not make the base. This is our stuff from last week, because I thought you might like to see that. So I'm going to get that out of the screen because that is really white. And it's also put all fluff along here. Before we go too much further, I did cut the top off. Remember I said it was a little bit too high for what I wanted. So that top has been cut off along the line that we marked last week. So that's all done. So what I've done with the light brown, which I have a fair bit of, I actually have put the slip knot quite a way back so I can use the yarn doubled to make the beginning chain. And you're going to say, why did you make it double to make the beginning chain? Well, that's because we're going to work on both sides of the chain. And if I make it double, it's not going to leave holes in the middle. So I've got both strands there, and I am just chaining, just a plain chain all the way up. Now, the white's going to come back in a minute because I need to figure out how long I need this to be. If you remember last week, we measured and worked out how long our centre should be. And if you haven't, go and look at that one first. So if we bring this back, I'm sorry about the white balance, but it won't be for long. We need to crochet this length. So just lay your chain on there. Your container will be different to mine, so I'm not giving you numbers. And you want your chain up to this length. When we work this out, we worked out what half this width was, and that tells us how much space we need at each end to get it all the way around. So we do need a bit more. Carry on. This way of making a base is also the way you make a lot of bases on handbags, so it's a good thing to learn. This is just plain chaining, nothing fancy, just pulling through the loop. I think we're pretty close to how much we need, so I'll come back down, lay it on. It's actually a little bit long, so put that at the beginning. All right, we need to come back to there. Right, so that's how long our base needs to be. And because this is a rectangle, we have 4 corners, 4. So that's where our increases are to keep the shape the same. We don't want any increases here, or once we get started here. So everything's going to be done in single crochet, and everything will be done in a spiral. That way we don't have a jog when we get up. So that's how long we need. Then we need 1 for the height of the stitch, and then 1 in the side of the stitch. So that one went in the one below, not the one we just made. And I'm going to put a second one in there. That way it starts a corner for us. So you've got to remember we've got 2 there, which means we need 2 here and then 2 either side at the other end. And now this just you go along. And I'm going to use the double up as long as I can. How much more have I got? Oh, okay, we can't do that. I didn't have enough, and I'm not going to undo it. So the double up stops here, and we'll go back to single thread. So once again, put the 2 in. Now this yarn is 12 ply. I am using a 4mm. The actual suggested size is a 5.5. You actually want to go smaller because we're doing single crochet and we want it quite tight. So if you have loose tension, you may need to go even smaller still. You may need to go to a 3.5 first, but if that's still too loose, you need to go tighter again. So work it out the way you're comfortable, but you don't want to be seeing any holes in between the stitches because this is the bottom of our container and we don't want holes in it. So this is not terribly exciting. So I might just pause and get to the corner. Just go and pause. All right, we got to the end. Now I also forgot to say you need to put a stitch marker in the first stitch and make sure, see if I can pick this up without losing the hook, that you get both of the top loops of the first stitch in your stitch marker, because that's the one we've got to slip stitch to, not this one. This one is our corner, this one is our first stitch. Okay, so I just did the single crochet to the end and we're now only 1 stitch away from the end. Hopefully that'll come back in focus. Looks like it's trying. Well, anyway, we're 1 stitch away. There's only 1 loop. So we're going to go 2 stitches for the corner. 2. Oh, sorry, I got a bit high. 2 stitches for the corner. And then I'm going to put a chain and then I'm going to do 2 stitches in the other loop. Now the chain is not an actual stitch, but because the knot's there, I can't put a stitch there, but putting the chain there gives us a space for a stitch on the next row. And now we just go back again. And this is our first row when we're not splitting the yarn. Let's try that again. All right, now before I go any further, what we've done is this side was done on this loop of the chain. This side up here is done on this loop of the chain. And if you know anything about your chain stitches, there's 3 parts to every chain. So we're leaving the third one, just leaving it, not doing anything with it. And what that does is it fills the gap at the back. That's why we did it with doubled thread. So you can't actually, you can see a little bit there because there's a couple of stitches, but this will actually mat up, or not mat up, but it'll go together a bit and not have any holes. That's the plan anyway. That's why we're using thicker yarn with a smaller hook, and that's why we did doubled thread for the first row. So this is not terribly exciting, but this is how we get it started. If you're really smart, you can do this in slow motion and count my stitches, but it won't help you if your container's different. I did consider using black for the bottom, but I want to keep the, not black, the dark brown, but I want to keep that for highlighting, so I went with the light brown just to do the cover, the outside cover on the container to begin with. The sooner we can cover that white, the better. This is not cooperating today. It is trying to split with every stitch. I'm not pausing this one because I just want you to see how that's closing up. So you got a little bit of holes here, but they will go away. It's only because we did the corner stitches. Here, there's no visible holes, which is what we want. The tighter you can get your work on things like containers and on handbags, the better your structural integrity will be. That's my big word for today. Okay, nearly there. A few more to go. This is a very simple base too. This is not a especially difficult one. Just a minimal amount of increases. All right, we're nearly back. Try not to go too high on the screen. That's my problem nearly every time. So we're one stitch away. So we need to make sure we're going into the right one. So that's where our two are. So it's, I'll see if I can bring it up so you can see. It's there, not there. That's the bottom of the stitch. We want these two loops on this side, and we want to put two stitches in there, and then we take that out. And if you remember, I said take the stitch marker out, which is now in my mouth, that's why I sound funny, is that we're going to slip stitch it there, which is a lie. We're not. We're going to put a stitch in there like so, and then we're going to put that back straight away. You must keep remembering to put it back. So now that's our stitch for the middle. We need to go 1 and 2, and now do we need that? Well, you got to decide whether you need it or not. What I might do is I'll do a chain there, and then we'll go like that. Yeah, that looks better. All right, so we've got 2. Try and come closer. We've got the one that we went up, then we've got 2 in the first corner stitch, and then I've done a chain because we want to try and keep the turn on the right angle. So now this will go all the way down. I'm not going to do the whole thing. And then when we get to the end here with these two, we will go up to that one, do a chain, put 2 there, 1 in the middle, 1 there, chain, and then 2 there. So we're repeating what's at the other end. And that just went off the screen then, didn't it? I'm sorry. So I'll say that again. So we'll come up to here. This is our last stitch before we had the 2 in the corner. Then we'll have 1 stitch there. No, that's the 1 stitch there, chain, 2 there, 1 there, 2 there, 1 there. What I'll do is I'll pause it, I'll get that corner done, and then you can see what I mean, okay? All right, we got to the end of that, and in the meantime I've decided I'm going to do the corner slightly different. I will try and bring it up so you see we're 1 stitch away from the 2 that are in the corner. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into the first one, and then I'm going to wiggle between them. I don't want to go into that hole. Wiggle between the stitches. I'm going to do 1 stitch, chain, and another stitch into the same hole. Oh, we're not doing a double crochet, we are doing single crochets. All right, so that's what I've done, and then I'll go into the next stitch. That's 1. That one's the chain that was at the end, and then the next one, that's the first of the corner ones. And now I'm going to try and wiggle between them, if it'll let me. It should do. There we go. So we're going to do 1, chain, 1. I want to do a repeatable corner, and what I'd set up was not a repeatable corner. So I'll just do this 1 stitch. That's the first stitch to the side, and you see how that's made it more square at the top here? That's what we want. So that's the corner I'm going to be doing all the way around. So it'll be 1 stitch, chain, 1 stitch on each of the 4 corners, and then all the rest will be plain. I'll do 1 more stitch and I'll put the stitch marker in. Wherever it's gone, it's vanished. All right, we'll just pull it. It's at the other end. Okay. So we'll just bring this back. Yes, I know it's very white, but it's not for long. And we'll lay that on here. And that is what we're doing. Now, it has pulled it out. We actually want this quite tight. So pulling it out, if you look, that's how it ends. It's actually moved the ends down a bit. So it's pulled it in. That's fine, because it does stretch to where we want, and we do want it tight. So that's all I'm going to do. It's going to keep going around and around until I reach this outside edge where the rim is, and that's when I stop doing the increases on the corners. So that's what I'll have done ready for next week. And I haven't done the paw pad on the pockets. I think I might try and do the pockets that are on the picture. So I will have an experiment on that next week. It's a little bit of a short one this week. I just wanted to show you how to get the base started, and tell you what I'd changed about what we were doing. So that's it for Saturday Craft this week. I hope you're going all right with your version, and I will see you on the next one.